Greetings, everybody. This is Dan Powers at Champion Solutions Group, and we want to talk again about our series of working at home. And today, what I kind of wanted to talk about is ransomware. And a bigger attack surface. Again, because we're a lot more of us are working at home, not inside our protective castle, if you will. It represent a much bigger attack surface. So let's talk about this a little bit. And obviously, in recent months, I think a lot of people are probably familiar with this map, kind of showing the spread of COVID 19 around the world, which is making a lot of us work at home. But if we drill into this map, there's something I wanted to show you here. I wanted to show you that this is actually not the John Hopkins map at all, but these are some maps of actually live active bots in the last 24 hours. So these are cyber attacks going on, and this has been going on for years. So I kind of just wanted to prove the point that there's a lot of activity in the cyber world that's constantly happening, threats out there all the time. And I threw some of these up just so people can, kind of amuse themselves a little bit. There's a lot of education in here. There's a lot of cool maps. I'll show the links in a minute, showing us all sorts of type of attacks happening across the world, whether they're denial of services, whether they're anti-spams, whether we got vulnerabilities, whatever the case may be. And some of these are pretty interesting. Some of them may even look like the War Games in 1980s movie, if some people remember that, of course, which is kind of cool. And some of them even look like the countries are attacking each other, and in some cases that's actually true. But for the most part, they're bad actors. And something I kind of wanted to draw out here is this guy right here. If we notice the malware that phishing attacks, that ransomware attacks has been incredibly on the rise, and unfortunately, I think it's going to continue. As we go forward. So, as I mentioned, I'm going to list some of these links up here. I thought it'd be a cool breakup of your day to see how some of these companies and security companies show active attacks, what's going on in the world, and quite honestly, what they're doing to help stop it or protect you from it. So, a couple cool links, but let's go back to what we were looking at in the first place, which is back here. And as I had promised, I will put up these links so that we can take a look at them here. And I'll pause for a minute. I'm just going to talk for a minute, let people copy these down, click on them if they want. Again, some cool resources there. But why is this important? Well, let's take a look at that of what's happened with the forced work at home. And again, if you watch some of my other videos, I keep reusing this slide deck. I think it's just simple and it explains what's going on in any normal company. I have my crown jewels, if you will. I have some cloud content, but most of what's really important to me exists inside my company. A good 90 to 80% of my workforce was working inside of my buildings, inside my protected network. And by the way, this block kind of represents what you saw on some of those other URLs and maps I put up where people are testing your perimeter. They're trying to break in. They're trying to release malware. They're attacking, if you will. But this is what we're used to. But of course, what we're seeing now with working at home, more workforce moving, this is kind of switching on its head. Where really what we have is, we have that 90% of our workforce at home. And what we really need to do is put a box around this. We need to kind of put a new perimeter, if you will, to protect these remote workers. And of course, I'm sure most companies, when they did this, they had all sorts of tools, right? They're going over VPN, they're trying to make it as secure as possible. But there was also a little bit of lag time there where those workers just had to start working at home. It wasn't really planned. So a lot of companies did the best they could. But again, as we talked about, we have to do some patching, backups, vulnerability scanning, all of these things that you had built in at your corporate network. Now that I got this massive workforce, now that is not inside the corporation for a short period of time, and let's face it, a lot more people will probably end up working at home in the long term. What I wanted to focus in on really is those phishing attacks and that ransomware. So, unfortunately, the bad guys take advantage of things like this. We've already seen that John Hopkins map be replicated multiple times, fake sites where it downloaded malware to machines. Also, we see that phishing emails coming out. Click here to see what your city is doing for you. Click here to file for unemployment. Click here to, get your stimulus check from the government if you're in the US. These things are just massively starting to grow in that ransomware. And why I think this is incredibly important, because if we look at ransomware from last year's in 2019, we're going to see that every 14 seconds, some organization fell victim to ransomware. The degree of how much they were affected may have varied, but 1.5 new phishing sites were created every month. Phishing attacks via emails increased 109% in 2019, and 34% of the businesses that got hit with malware took a week or more to regain access. Now, again, some of these companies I'm talking about aren't little mom and pop shops. These are really big companies with very big IT staffs, big budgets, and had every tool in the world to protect them, but they still fell victim to ransomware. And unfortunately, I think this is going to rise this year in 2020. So, again, what can we do about that? And that's what I wanted to discuss with you next. So, I'm going to introduce a tool. Let me rearrange my screen. So here I got two remote desktops running Windows 10. Notice on this machine over here, I'm looking at my X drive, which happens to be on the marketing share. So over here, I'm going to switch also to the marketing share. And what I want to show you here is, again, these are two separate remote desktops that I'm in running Windows 10. They're accessing a network share. In this case, it's just a Windows file share, but this could be a NetApp file server. It could be a Linux box running SMB, just as long as it's a file share in this instance. The tool I'm going to show you can also work with like Office 365, Google, Dropbox, but it's very easy to demo this with just UNC shares. But notice there's no agents, there's no tools in place on these servers. They're just Windows boxes, just like you would find at any company. And what I want you to notice is if I take on this box over here, and if I copy and repaste this picture, I want you to see what happens. So I copied picture copy. Notice on this machine, picture copy shows up. I didn't have to do anything. There's no refresh. This is just how the SMB protocol works. The machines are attached to a server. Any updates and changes gets picked up. And this doesn't matter if there's two machines in my example, or if I'm looking at thousands of machines, they're all going to see this. And also notice when I click over here and I go to delete this file, if I could find the delete button, I want you to notice when I hit OK here, we're going to notice the file disappear here. There's nothing I have to do. It gets notified that that file is gone, and there it goes. So that's a very important concept. No agents, nothing deployed. This is just how file share networking works. And I say that when I bring up the tool that I want to talk about here in 1 second. So again, let me pause my screen. And now here I am. I'm inside of a tool called RC. This is RC 4.1 by the company called Bullwall out of the UK. And notice here, all I had to do is add, in this case, if I'm looking for UNC shares, the UNC share. So again, I'm monitoring market, I'm monitoring my test share. And notice if I want to add another share, for example, I also know there's a finance share. All I have to do is go up here and type it. So I went up there and typed DDC1 / finance. Yep, it's available. I'm logging it. I'm enabled. I'm looking at it. So now this server, this solution is monitoring these file shares. They have companies where they literally have thousands of shares and SharePoint and Dropbox and all these things. I'm just going to demo quick just to show you how this works. But this is how difficult this is to set up. And if we notice, there's a couple things that he does over here. These are known file extensions. For example, .fun. This is like from CryptoLocker. These other ransomware variants that came out are known file extensions that happen. So they're known, they're easy to predict and see. And also this tool is great because it can also find unknown file shares by looking at the heuristics of the files themselves. So I'm going to click on the monitoring page, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset this just to bring it back into a normal setting. Hit reset here just to clear things out. So as we're sitting here watching this, this is currently watching any type of activity happening to those shares. So we can see there's users out there, they're creating files, they're reading files, they might be deleting, renaming files, and it's actively watching this. Just like I was showing you a minute ago when those two different machines, when I copied one file, it showed up on the other one. That's what's happening here. There's no agents deployed, there's nothing to do on your servers. All I had to do is add the UNC shares in this case, and this tool is monitoring those UNC shares for all types of activity. So now what I want to do is I'm going to rearrange my screen again here to see if I can get two of these boxes to show up at once. And I'm going to kind of rearrange this guy so I can see them side by side. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop some of the other activity that's happening out in the wild just so that, here we go. I pause some of the other copying of files and moving, right, for my demo. So watch what happens if, for example, I take this picture and copy it, right? I'd made a copy, look, modified a file, added it. The server knows what's going on here. Not a big deal. Nothing bad is happening. So this is how we can monitor a file. But what I want to do now is actually bring up the other box because I want to do this on two separate ones and show you is on this particular machine. As I said, I'm going to switch to, let's see, one of the other shares where I have some bad stuff actually. Here we go. So remember I mentioned that known extension. So here's a known bad type of file, .fun. So if I copy and paste this, look at what's going to happen over here. The system, our server, this solution from by Bullwall, there's no agents deployed, nothing I had to put on my servers, my SharePoint, anything. Just because the nature of the SMB protocol in this case, he can see this file be written out. He knows it matched one of the bad ones, and my alert state was written up. And I can go up here and see, hey, a known bad file extension. I know what server, I know where the file is, I know who did it. And if I keep copying this file, I'm going to do it one or two more times. Notice that my alert state's rising really, really fast. This is a known bad extension. One or two of these, I might want to take action. But how malware would work in the wild is once it started doing its encryption, it would just start copying files and boom, I just lost access to that box and it shut down. Why? My alert state read it 100%. I know the user that did this, and it's even telling me, hey, this is what I did to stop it. I ran a shutdown on him. So, again, even over VPN, those remote workers, I can shut down your machine. But if you weren't even VPN'd in, and let's say he was accessing a share up in the cloud, he also would go out and disable that account. So, even if I couldn't stop that one device or shut him down, I could disable his access. I could remove his VPN. I could stop the malware spread instantaneously. And that's by looking at those known goods, known good file extensions. So that's awesome. And that file extension list gets updated by Bullwall all the time. There's currently hundreds, if not thousands, in there. But the other really cool thing is because they look at the heuristics of the files themselves, if there is some type of encryption, which I'm going to show you next, which is not actually a known extension, the system can still flag it. So let me rearrange my screen again. So now I got my second machine here. And if you notice on the X drive, net use, I'm attached to the X drive is marketing share. If I do a dir in here, what I'm going to attempt to do is take this picture, which is just a PNG file, and I am going to encrypt this. Encrypt -p. I got to give it some password for the encryption. Uh, picture.png. Now notice what happened if I spelled things right. Boop. So it encrypted it. Now notice over here, it started flagging this and saying, well, listen, it's not a known bad file. I didn't change the PNG, but because the heuristics, it knows there's a mismatch and it knows this file got encrypted. So if this is a new ransomware variant or just encrypting files out there, it's going to flag it. Of course, our system here from Bullwall can send info to your SIM, can email you, text you, and all those alerting capabilities. But if this keeps happening on this side and keep adding these things at a point when that threshold reaches 100%, it will shut this box down. So this is an example of having one that is not a known dot extension, just encryption happening on. And again, when I reach that alert state, just like on the other machine, there we goes. I just did it again, and it actually shut my machine down just like it did the other one and removed access to my account. So this is really powerful in this sense, and that's part of what I wanted to show to you folks today. And again, as I had mentioned, we can do different types of connectors. It can do SharePoint, it can do Google Drive, Dropbox, all these different type of things. The one that I showed you there was quick and simple. The easiest one to explain was that UNC monitoring. So as you have more folks working at home, my point being there is we can really start to isolate the bad actors. So again, remember in ransomware, you've put your anti-malware and this stuff out on these machines, and we've seen it over and over again that ransomware sooner or later still gets through your defenses. We need a way to contain it. And remember, even if I have that bad actor over VPN, if it starts attacking my corporate jewels, right, by what I really am trying to protect, whether it's in the cloud or on my company's VPN, I can eliminate this box because having one device out here get encrypted is not going to really kill you from a company standpoint. I can ship them a new box. We can bare metal image it, multiple things we can do to take care of it. But as long as I can protect my crown jewels out here, I can keep the rest of my users focusing. So again, if I can protect that, I get to keep all these other guys working, and I can simply isolate and stop this one box either shutting it down, removing its access, so the rest of my company can keep working. And ransomware becomes more of an annoyance than it does to be actually anything worse than that. And real quick, I wanted to show you that on any of those instances, there's a button we can click. There's templates. These are obviously a GDPR type of report, but it instantly is showing me, hey, what was the time sequence? What was the user? What was the machines, the IP address, the files? What was done inside of here? So I could basically print this out, fill it out, and give it off to the regulatory committee, whether that's internal or external. These are templates. We can create them for PCI and other things to meet your needs, but it allows you to respond to your regulatory committee. So again, this was just a quick way that Champion is here trying to help folks to have a good working force and be safer working at home. If you found this interesting, if you'd like to see a further demo, please reach out to us. Again, I'm Dan Powers. I'm dpowers at championsg.com. And of course, you can reach my counterpart, Tammy Hope, which is T Hope at championsg.com. Thank you so much and stay safe, everybody.